What if I told you the secret to a longer, healthier life wasn't spending hours and hours in the gym, but maybe just 1 hour a week? Today, we're going to break down the surprising new science behind strength training and what it really takes to unlock some serious longevity benefits.
Okay, so let's just tackle the big question right away, the one that holds a lot of us back, right? To get those real long-term health benefits, do you basically have to move into the gym? Do you have to become some hardcore weightlifter? It feels like this huge barrier. But you know what? The answer might really surprise you.
Well, according to some major new research, the answer is a big, clear no. The science is actually pointing to this powerful sweet spot for maximizing those longevity benefits. And get this, we're talking about just 30 to 60 minutes of muscle strengthening activity per week. That's it, not hours a day. We're talking about an hour total for the entire week.
So, this brings us to our first big point here. We need to bust this myth about the gym. The key thing to get here is you absolutely do not have to be a gym rat to get these incredible rewards. So, let's get clear on what we're actually talking about.
Okay, so the fancy term for this is resistance training, though you'll hear people call it strength training all the time. But what does that really mean? It's basically just any exercise that makes your muscles work against some kind of force. Yeah, that could be dumbbells for sure, but it can also be your own body weight, push-ups, squats, or even just using those stretchy resistance bands. The tool itself, not nearly as important as the action.
All right, so that's the what. But the really powerful part, that's the why. In this next section, let's look at the incredible protective shield that getting stronger gives you, and how strength training actually helps you fight back against some of the biggest diseases out there.
And look, this isn't just based on some one-off small study. We are talking about meta-analyses here. And if you're not familiar, these are basically giant super studies that pull together the results from dozens of individual studies. We're talking hundreds of thousands of people sometimes. This gives us the clearest, most solid evidence you can get.
So what did this mountain of evidence actually find? Well, for starters, just doing any resistance training compared to none is linked to a 15% lower risk of dying from any cause during the study. I mean, that's a huge drop in what scientists call all-cause mortality.
And it gets even better when you drill down into specific diseases. Let's take heart disease, one of the biggest killers in the world. A huge meta-analysis found a 19% lower risk of death from heart-related problems for people who did strength training.
And yeah, the benefits just keep coming. That same analysis, it found that strength training is also tied to a 14% lower risk of dying from cancer. So you're seeing this amazing protective effect against some of the biggest threats to our health.
Okay, this all sounds awesome, right? But this is where the story gets really, really interesting and maybe a little counterintuitive. Let's call it the Goldilocks dose. How much is not too little, not too much, but just right?
Check out this quote from a 2023 research review. It perfectly explains this fascinating difference. See, with aerobic exercise like running or cycling, we usually think, hey, some is good, more is better. But the science is showing that with strength training, there's a totally different game being played.
And here's what that looks like. This is the actual data. Just look at this curve. It's like a U-shape. On the left side, you've got the risk of death, and on the bottom, you've got how many minutes of training you do per week. You can literally see the risk dropping. It hits its lowest point right around that 60-minute mark. And then, this is the crazy part, the benefits actually start to level off, or even fade a little. More is not better here.
So let's just boil that down. For cardio, the line pretty much goes one way. More is often better. But for strength training, it is all about finding that sweet spot, that just right amount to get the biggest bang for your buck.
So what is that just right amount? All the research keeps landing on this magic number. The sweet spot, the optimal range for the biggest longevity boost is between 30 and 60 minutes a week. That's our target. But wait, the story isn't over. We can actually make this whole thing even more powerful. And that brings us to the ultimate power combo, a way to create what's basically a 1 + 1 = 3 effect for your health.
Because here's the real secret sauce. The biggest wins don't come from picking one type of exercise over the other. It's not about strength training or cardio. No way. The most incredible improvements to your lifespan, they come from doing both.
Let's just look at the numbers because they're amazing. Okay, compared to doing absolutely nothing, strength training by itself lowers your risk of death by about 18%. Aerobics by itself, about 25%. And hey, both of those are great. But look what happens when you combine them. The risk plummets by a staggering 40%. That's not just adding them together, that's synergy. They're making each other stronger.
Okay, so let's wrap all this up into something you can actually walk away with and use. Think of this as your longevity prescription, a super simple, actionable plan that's based on all the signs we just went through.
And honestly, it really is this simple. Step 1, aim for that sweet spot. Just 30 to 60 minutes of muscle strengthening stuff each week. Step 2, don't ditch your cardio. Combine it with regular aerobic exercise, like a brisk walk or a bike ride. And then step 3, just enjoy the incredible combined benefits that give you the absolute best shot at a long and healthy life.
So if there is one thing, just one thing you take away from all this today, please let it be this number: 30 to 60 minutes a week. That's the goal. It's doable, it's sustainable, and as we've just seen, it is unbelievably powerful.
So, I'll just leave you with this final thought. There are 10,080 minutes in every single week. The science we've explored today suggests that investing just 60 of them, that's less than 1%, in getting stronger could be one of the single best investments you ever make in your future self. So the only question left is, how are you going to use them?